Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into some fascinating research from Dr. Sudhindra S.G., and we're going to tackle a massive question. In this fast-changing world, how do we build knowledge that actually lasts? We're going to explore a really powerful metaphor that might just change the way you think about teaching and learning forever.
So let's just start with the big one, the question that I think is on every educator's mind right now. With everything changing so fast, how do we teach things that actually stick? How do we give our students knowledge that isn't going to be totally obsolete by the time they graduate?
Dr. Sudhindra talks about this as a journey to a prayag. It's this beautiful idea from India of a sacred meeting point of rivers. But for us, it's where myth, mindset, and mastery all come together. We're not just looking at surface-level facts. We're trying to find those deep, powerful currents that run underneath all real, lasting learning.
All right, so Section 1, the quest for enduring knowledge. Before we find the solution, we have to really understand the problem we're up against.
The thing is, the pace of change today is just mind-blowing. An in-demand skill, something a student spends months learning, can literally become irrelevant overnight. Technology and whole industries are transforming at warp speed, and that makes teaching just for the what's hot right now a really, really risky game.
And this brings us to a new reality, one that this chart makes crystal clear. In a world increasingly driven by AI, those very specific technical skills, they have a shorter and shorter shelf life. So what's becoming the most crucial skill for any career? It's adaptability. It's that foundational ability to learn, to unlearn, and to constantly evolve.
Okay, so if just piling on more temporary facts and skills is failing our students, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to Section 2, and the core idea of this whole explainer, the tree of learning.
This is the big idea from Dr. Sudhindra C.G.'s research. It's called trunk-based knowledge. And it's not about learning more, it's about learning deeper. It's an approach that says, hey, let's focus on establishing the core foundational principles first. That's the trunk. And we do that before we start exploring all the specialized little details. Those are the branches.
And the whole process works just like a real tree. It's pretty intuitive. Step 1, you establish the roots. This is all about getting a deep understanding of the why behind any subject. Then, Step 2, you grow the trunk. You build a sturdy set of core principles that everything else can hang on to. And only then, once that trunk is strong, do you let the learning spread out to the branches and the leaves, all those specific details, facts, and applications. And this quote from the research just nails it, doesn't it? Without a trunk, when you learn something new, a branch or a leaf, it just falls away. I mean, it's so true. Without that central structure, that core understanding, any new piece of information has nothing to attach to. It just blows away in the wind. It's fleeting. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds like a pretty modern, clever educational theory. But what's really amazing is that the wisdom behind it is, well, it's timeless. Let's jump into Section 3 and see how this exact idea shows up in ancient Indian wisdom. Let's take the ancient epic, the Mahabharata. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't just give the warrior Arjuna a checklist of battle tactics. No, he teaches him fundamental core principles of life, and it's all grounded in this one massive idea, dharma. You can think of it as one's duty or purpose or righteous path. You see, this is a perfect example of what we're calling a strategy trunk. Once Arjuna understands that core principle of dharma, he can then apply it to countless branches in his life. Everything from leadership on the battlefield to making tough moral decisions to resolving conflicts. The core idea is the same, no matter the situation. And we see this exact same pattern in another epic, the Ramayana. Rama's entire life, his entire rule, it was all founded on what's called Ramadharma. It's a solid, unshakable trunk built from these core principles like duty, courage, and compassion. And what a powerful image this is for us as educators. Think about it. No matter how wildly the branches of his life swung, and I mean, they swung from royal exile to all-out war to incredible personal grief, that core trunk of principles, it held fast. It never bowed. It gave him this incredible, unwavering stability. And if we want to find the absolute deepest roots of this idea, we can go to the ancient Vedas and Upanishads. They suggest that all knowledge is ultimately rooted in Rita, or the cosmic order of the universe. And from there, the Upanishads guide us toward what you might call the ultimate trunk, understanding the truth of Atman, the individual self, and Brahman, the ultimate reality of the universe. Just think about that for a second. The idea is that from this single ultimate trunk, this core understanding of the self and its place in the cosmos, every other branch, things like philosophy, ethics, spirituality. They can all grow out securely. It's maybe the ultimate example of building a system of knowledge that's truly built to last. Okay, so we've explored the theory, we've seen its ancient roots, but let's bring it right back here to today. This leads us to our final section, which is all about how this translates into practical advice. This is where we, as teachers and educators, step into our most important role, the role of the gardener. So how can you actually use this in your classroom tomorrow? The research gives us 4 really practical steps. First, always begin with why before you get bogged down in the how. Second, use the tree metaphor itself. Help your students actually see what's a trunk principle versus what's just a branch or a leaf. Third, constantly connect everything back. Always be asking, so how does this new piece of information connect back to our core trunk? And finally, number 4, be willing to update the branches. Techniques and tools will always change, but you have to protect and constantly reinforce the fundamental trunk.
So the advice, when you boil it all down, is a really clear and powerful call to action for every single one of us as educators. Plant the trunk first, then nurture the branches.
And that leaves us with one last big question. A question I want you to take away from this explainer. As you think about your next lesson, your next lecture, your next conversation with the student, ask yourself this: what is the trunk you are going to build for them tomorrow?